The snow fell silent on Thunder Ridge, each flake a whispered prayer for the dead. Cole Morgan knelt before the grave, his knees sinking into white powder that had accumulated through the long Montana night. 10 years. A decade measured not in seasons, but in the slow calcification of a heart that had stopped beating the day they buried Rebecca beneath the aspens. His hands, rough and scarred from a life carved out of unforgiving wilderness, clutched a bundle of dried aspen flowers. The stems crumbled between his fingers, as brittle as the man who held them. Around him the forest stood sentinel in the pre-dawn darkness, pines heavy with winter's burden, their branches creaking in wind that spoke of older sorrows than his own. Cole's breath formed clouds in the frigid air, each exhale visible proof that some part of him still functioned, still lived, though he had ceased feeling alive long ago. His eyes, the pale gray of winter sky, fixed on the simple wooden cross he had carved with hands that once knew how to create beauty. Rebecca Morgan, it read. Beloved wife and mother, 1851 to 1875. 24 years old when she died. 24 years of laughter and warmth, and the kind of love that makes a man believe the world might be kind after all. Then gone, extinguished like a candle in a storm, leaving only smoke and the acrid smell of what might have been. The memory came unbidden, as it always did on this date. June 20th, the longest day of the year when light should triumph over darkness. Instead, it had become the day darkness won. He saw Rebecca as she had been in those final hours, her skin pale as the sheets beneath her, sweat beading on her forehead, despite the cool cloth he pressed there again and again. The baby Kate had been born 3 hours earlier, a healthy girl with her mother's dark hair and his winter eyes. Rebecca had smiled when she held her, had whispered words of love and promise. Then the bleeding had started. Cole had sent Emma, just 5 years old then, to fetch Dr. Silas Crow from town, an hour's ride in good weather. The doctor had arrived with his black bag and his confident manner, examining Rebecca with practiced efficiency. Childbed fever, Crow had announced. Common enough? I have medicine that will help. Cole remembered standing in the doorway of their bedroom watching Crow prepare a tincture, dark liquid in a glass vial measured with precise drops into water. The doctor's hands had been steady, professional, trustworthy. My friend came by earlier, Cole had said. The Apache woman, Tall Feather. She brought herbs, said they would help with the bleeding. Crow's expression had hardened just slightly, barely perceptible, but Cole caught it. The subtle curl of lip, the narrowing of eyes. Savage remedies, Crow had said, his tone carefully neutral. I've seen what happens when civilized folk trust in such things, Mr. Morgan. Your wife needs real medicine, science, not superstition. Cole had hesitated. He remembered that hesitation had replayed it 10,000 times in the years since. Tall Feather had saved his life when he was 8 years old, had taken in a starving orphan, and taught him how to read the land, how to survive, how to see the sacred in all living things. She had given him the eagle mark on his arm, had spoken words in Apache about protection and purpose. But she was Apache, and Crow was a doctor, a white man with education and credentials, and the weight of civilization behind his words. Cole had chosen civilization. Rebecca had drunk the medicine, Crow staying to monitor her condition. For an hour she had seemed stable. Then the convulsions began. Her body had arched off the bed, muscles, rigid eyes rolled back. Foam flecked her lips. The smell of burned almonds filled the room, acrid and wrong. "What's happening?" Cole had shouted, grabbing Crow by the shoulders. "What did you give her?" "Sometimes the body rejects treatment," Crow had said, his voice professionally calm, even as he backed toward the door. "I've done all I can. I'm sorry." Rebecca had died as the sun set, her hand growing cold in Cole's grip, her final words of forgiveness he did not deserve. "Cole," she had whispered, blood on her lips, "you tried. It's not your fault." But it was. He knew it was. Because 3 days after the funeral, when he finally opened the bundle of herbs Tall Feather had left, he found a note written in careful English. The medicine woman had learned to write from missionaries before they turned on her people. For stopping blood, for saving mother, for bringing life, not death. Simple words, true words, words that condemned him. He had walked to Tall Feather's camp in the high country carrying the herbs and his grief and his rage, but the camp was gone. The Apache had moved on, driven away by settlers who feared what they did not understand. He never saw Tall Feather again. The memory faded as the first light of dawn touched the eastern peaks, turning snow to gold. Cole stood slowly, his joints protesting the cold and the kneeling. He was 38 years old, but felt ancient, hollowed out a shell, animated by habit rather than hope. He turned from the grave and walked back toward the cabin. Smoke rose from the chimney where Emma would have already started the fire. His daughters. The only reason he bothered to wake each morning, though he suspected they wished he wouldn't. The cabin came into view solid and dark against the snow. 2 stories of hewn logs windows shuttered against the cold, the porch where he had once sat with Rebecca and planned their future. A future that died with her. Inside, warmth hit him like a physical force. Emma stood at the stove, her back to him as she prepared breakfast. 15 years old, tall for her age, her dark hair pulled back in a practical braid. She wore her mother's old dress altered to fit and moved with the efficiency of someone who had learned responsibility too young. Kate sat at the table, her small hands wrapped around a cup of warm milk. 10 years old, the child whose birth had cost her mother's life. She looked up when Cole entered, her gray eyes meeting his. For a moment something passed between them, guilt perhaps, or recognition of shared loss. "Morning, Pa," Kate said softly. Emma did not turn around, did not acknowledge his presence except for the slight stiffening of her shoulders. Cole hung his coat on the peg by the door and sat at the table. Emma placed a plate before him without comment. Eggs, fried cornmeal mush, strips of salted pork. Food meant to sustain, not to please. They ate in silence. This was their routine. Had been for years. Cole had stopped trying to make conversation long ago, had accepted that his daughters existed in the same space as him, but not with him. Emma hated him, though she never said so aloud. Kate tried to bridge the gap, but was too young to understand that some chasms cannot be crossed with good intentions alone. "Storm's coming," Cole said finally, the only words he would speak over the meal. "Big one. Emma, check the animals. Make sure everything's secured." "Already done," Emma replied, her tone flat. "Kate, you'll stay inside today. No wandering." "Yes, Pa." More silence. The scrape of fork on plate, the crackle of fire, the howl of wind picking up outside as the storm system Cole had sensed approached from the north. After breakfast, Emma stood and gathered her rifle from the rack by the door. She dressed in layers, practical clothing meant for the wilderness. Cole noticed the slight bulge in her coat pocket, the corner of something paper peeking out. A letter, perhaps? But he did not ask. Had learned long ago that his daughters kept their secrets as close as he kept his grief. "Going to check the fence line on the north pasture," Emma said. "Might be gone most of the day." "Storm will hit by afternoon," Cole warned. "I'll be back before then." Kate jumped up. "Can I come with you?" Emma hesitated, then nodded. "Dress warm." Cole watched his daughters prepare to leave, something uneasy stirring in his chest. 10 years of isolation had honed his instincts, made him sensitive to shifts in the air, changes in pattern. Something felt wrong, but he could not name. It could not justify stopping them from a routine they had performed countless times before. The door closed behind them, and Cole was alone. He stood and moved to the window, watching Emma and Kate trudge through snow toward the tree line. 2 figures growing smaller against the white expanse, vulnerable, precious, everything he had left in a world that had taken everything else. But he did not call them back, did not run after them, did not do what a father should do because he had forgotten how to be a father somewhere in the frozen years between then and now. Emma led the way through the forest, her rifle held ready, eyes scanning for game. Behind her, Kate struggled to keep pace, her shorter legs sinking deeper into snow that came up to her knees in places. "Why did you really want to go hunting today?" Kate asked between labored breaths. "We have enough meat." Emma did not answer immediately. When she did, her voice carried an edge of something Kate could not quite identify. Anger, perhaps, or fear. "I needed to get out of that house," Emma said. "Away from him." "He's not that bad, Emma. He's just sad." Emma stopped walking and turned to face her younger sister. In the cold morning light, she looked older than 15. Looked like someone who had seen too much, carried too much, been asked to shoulder burdens no child should bear. "He killed our mother," Emma said quietly. Kate's eyes went wide. "That's not true. Mom died having me. It was my fault." "No," Emma said fiercely, kneeling to look Kate in the eye. "Don't you ever think that. Mom died because Pa didn't trust the right people. Because he chose a white doctor over an Apache healer. Because he was afraid of what the town would think." Tears welled in Kate's eyes. "But Pa loved Mom." "Love isn't always enough," Emma said, standing. "Sometimes it just makes the loss worse." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the letter Kate had noticed. The envelope was thick, expensive paper, official-looking. "What is it?" Kate asked. "An acceptance letter from the San Francisco Women's Medical College. They're offering me a full scholarship." Kate's face lit up despite her tears. "Emma, that's wonderful. You've always wanted to study medicine, to help people." "I haven't told Pa yet." "Why not?" Emma looked back toward the cabin hidden now behind trees and distance. "Because if I leave, you'll be alone with him, and I can't do that to you." "I'll be okay," Kate said, though her voice trembled slightly. "You should go, you should learn, become the doctor Mom would have wanted you to be." Emma folded the letter and tucked it back into her pocket. "We'll see. Right now, let's focus on getting some rabbits for stew." They continued deeper into the forest, moving along familiar hunting trails. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of snow and pine. Above them, clouds gathered dark and heavy, with the promise of the storm Cole had predicted. It was Kate who heard it first, a sound that did not belong in the winter woods, not the crack of a branch under deer hoof or the flutter of grouse taking flight. This was sharper, closer to human. A groan. Emma raised her hand, signaling Kate to stop. She chambered a round in her rifle, the metallic sound loud in the quiet forest. Together they moved toward the source of the noise, stepping carefully, staying low. They found her slumped against the base of an ancient pine, partially hidden by low-hanging branches heavy with snow. A woman, her clothing immediately identifiable as Apache. Traditional dress, though torn and soaked through. Long black hair matted with blood and ice. Skin bronze beneath grime and bruising. The woman's eyes fluttered open at their approach. Dark eyes, fever bright and filled with pain. She tried to move, to reach for something, but her strength failed. Her hand fell back to her side, still clutching a small buckskin pouch. Emma's first instinct was to raise her rifle to keep distance between herself and this stranger. But Kate was already moving forward, her young face creased with concern. "She's hurt," Kate said, kneeling beside the woman. "Look at her shoulder." Emma edged closer, keeping her rifle ready, but lowering it slightly. The wound was obvious now, a deep puncture in the woman's left shoulder, the edges blackened and swollen. Not a bullet wound. An arrow had done this since removed, leaving behind infection and fever. "Who are you?" Emma demanded, her voice sharp with suspicion and fear. "What are you doing on our land?" The woman's lips moved, forming words in English that came thick and slow through obvious pain. "Running," she whispered. "From men. Bad men. They hunt what I carry." Her hand tightened on the buckskin pouch. "We should get Pa," Kate said, looking up at Emma. "She needs help." Emma's jaw tightened. Everything in her rebelled against the idea. Bringing a stranger to their home. An Apache woman, no less. Their father had once known the Apache, had lived among them as a child, but that was decades ago. Now tensions between settlers and the tribes ran high. Helping this woman could bring trouble. But she looked at the wound again, at the fever in the woman's eyes, at the way her breathing came shallow and rapid. Without treatment, this woman would die. Perhaps not today, but soon. Within hours, certainly in this cold, Emma thought of her mother, thought of medicine denied, thought of the scholarship letter in her pocket and the dream it represented. A dream of healing, of helping, of being better than the fear that had killed Rebecca Morgan. "We're not taking her to Pa's," Emma said finally. "There's an old hunting cabin about 2 miles west. We'll take her there." "But Pa will find out," Kate protested, "when we don't come home with game." "Then we'll have to make sure he doesn't," Emma said. She slung her rifle over her shoulder and knelt beside the woman. "Can you stand? Can you walk, if we help you?" The woman nodded weakly. With Emma on one side and Kate on the other, they hauled her to her feet. She swayed, would have fallen if they had not held her upright. Her weight pressed against them, her body burning with fever, even through layers of clothing. "What's your name?" Kate asked as they began the slow journey toward the cabin. The woman's head lolled, then lifted with visible effort. "Nia," she whispered. "My name is Nia." The hunting cabin was smaller than Emma remembered. A single-room structure their father had built years ago, back when he still went on extended hunts into the deep wilderness. Now it sat abandoned, the door hanging crooked on leather hinges, gaps between logs stuffed with moss and mud to keep out the wind. They laid Nia on a pile of old furs in the corner, the only bedding available. Kate immediately set about building a fire in the small stone hearth, while Emma examined the wound more closely. It was worse than she had thought. The infection had spread red lines radiating from the puncture like cracks in ice. The flesh around the wound felt hot to the touch, almost burning. Nia drifted in and out of consciousness, murmuring words in Apache that Emma could not understand. "We need medicine," Kate said, watching from the fireplace. "Real medicine." Emma sat back on her heels thinking. Their cabin had basic supplies: whiskey for cleaning wounds, needle and thread for stitching, bandages. But nothing to fight infection this advanced, nothing to bring down a fever this high. Unless... "Mom's journal," Emma said quietly. "Remember? She wrote about herbs, about medicines she learned from someone." Kate's eyes widened. From the Apache woman, tall feather. Emma had found the journal years ago, hidden in a box beneath her parents' bed. Rebecca's careful handwriting filled the pages documenting plants and their uses, recipes for poultices and tinctures. Emma had read it cover to cover, memorizing entries, dreaming of the day she might use that knowledge to save lives instead of watching them slip away. "I'll go get it," Emma said, standing. "You stay here with her. Keep her warm. Try to get her to drink water if she wakes." "What if Pa sees you?" "He won't," Emma said with more confidence than she felt. "He's probably in the barn by now, checking on the cattle before the storm hits. I'll be quick." She slipped out into the cold, moving fast through the forest. The sky had darkened considerably, heavy clouds blocking the sun. Snow began to fall, light flakes at first, but growing heavier with each passing minute. Cole's storm was arriving early. Emma reached the cabin and paused at the tree line, watching for movement. She saw smoke from the chimney, but no sign of her father. Good. She crossed the open ground quickly, her boots crunching in fresh snow, and slipped inside. The journal was where she had hidden it, beneath a loose floorboard in the room she shared with Kate. She grabbed it along with the medical kit their father kept on a high shelf. Whiskey, bandages, needle and thread. Everything she might need. As she turned to leave, something made her pause. An instinct. A feeling of being watched. Cole stood in the doorway of his bedroom, silent as the falling snow outside. His pale eyes fixed on her, taking in the supplies she carried, the urgency in her movements. "Where are you going with those?" he asked quietly. Emma's mind raced. She could lie, could make up some story about an injured animal. But looking at her father's face, seeing something there she rarely saw anymore, something like actual concern, she found herself hesitating. "Kate and I found someone," she said carefully. "Someone hurt. We're trying to help." Cole's expression did not change. "Who? Does it matter?" "It does if you're putting yourself in danger." Emma laughed, a bitter sound. "You care about danger now. You care about saving people." Something flickered in Cole's eyes. Pain, perhaps, or recognition of the accusation beneath her words. "I care about you," he said quietly. "And your sister." "Not enough," Emma said, pushing past him toward the door. "Never enough." She ran before he could stop her, clutching the supplies to her chest. Tears freezing on her cheeks as the wind picked up and snow fell harder, nature itself conspiring to hide her path. Behind her, Cole stood in the doorway, watching his daughter disappear into the storm. He should follow her, should demand answers, should act like a father instead of a ghost haunting the shell of his former life. But he did not move, could not seem to make his feet obey. So he stood there as the cold invaded the cabin and the light faded, and somewhere in the distance his daughters tended to a stranger while he remained frozen in place, a prisoner of his own making. Emma burst back into the hunting cabin, snow-covered and breathing hard. Kate looked up from where she sat beside Nia, relief evident on her young face. "I got it," Emma gasped, holding up the journal and supplies. "Now, let's see if we can save her." For the next hour, Emma worked with quiet intensity. She read her mother's notes by firelight, matching descriptions to symptoms, finding the entry about arrow wounds and infection. Rebecca's handwriting spoke across the years, teaching her daughter the lessons she had never lived to pass on in person. "Yarrow root," Emma read aloud, "for inflammation and infection, combined with wild garlic and pine resin." "We don't have those," Kate pointed out. "No, but the forest does." Emma looked out the cabin's single window at the storm raging beyond. "And I'm going to find them." "Emma, you can't go out in that. It's getting worse." "Then I better hurry." She went back into the storm using her mother's detailed notes to locate the plants she needed. Yarrow grew near standing water even in winter. Wild garlic could be found by smell pushing up through snow in sheltered areas. Pine resin she gathered from the trees themselves, scraping the sticky substance into a tin cup. By the time she returned, her hands were numb and her face felt frozen, but she carried what she needed. Following Rebecca's instructions, she prepared a poultice, mixing the ingredients in careful proportion, heating them over the fire until they formed a paste. Nia cried out when Emma cleaned the wound with whiskey, her body arching in pain before falling back. But she did not fully wake. Emma applied the poultice, packed it tight against the infected flesh, and wrapped clean bandages around Nia's shoulder. "Now what?" Kate asked. "Now we wait," Emma said, sitting back against the wall. "And pray Mom knew what she was doing." 3 days passed in a blur of tending and waiting. Emma and Kate took turns at the cabin, bringing food and water, changing bandages, monitoring Nia's fever. They told Cole they were checking traps, staying out long hours to avoid the storm's aftermath. He did not question them. Perhaps he did not care enough to ask. Slowly, impossibly, Nia improved. The red lines receded. The fever broke. On the 3rd day she woke fully, her dark eyes clear and focused for the first time. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice stronger than before. "Safe," Emma said. "For now." Nia's hand went to her shoulder, feeling the bandages. "You did this? You treated me?" "We both did," Kate said, sitting forward eagerly. "Emma found the plants in Mom's journal, and I helped make the medicine, and change your wrappings, and keep you warm and—" "Kate," Emma interrupted gently, "let her rest." But Nia was sitting up now, looking at them with something like wonder. "You saved my life. Why, you don't know me. Your people and mine are not at war," Emma finished firmly. "Whatever happened to you, whoever hurt you, it wasn't us, and we don't let people die when we can help them." Nia studied Emma's face, seeing something there that made her nod slowly. "You are young to be so skilled in healing. I learned from my mother's notes. She learned from an Apache medicine woman named Tall Feather." The effect on Nia was immediate and profound. Her eyes went wide, her hand flying to her mouth. She spoke rapidly, in Apache words tumbling over each other, too fast to follow. "I'm sorry," Emma said. "I don't understand." Nia switched back to English, her voice shaking. "Tall Feather. You said Tall Feather. She was my mother." Now it was Emma's turn to stare. "Your mother? She died 10 years ago. Before she passed, she spoke of a white woman who wanted to learn our ways, who believed in our medicine, who was kind." Nia's eyes filled with tears. "Your mother." "It was your mother she spoke of." Kate leaned forward, her young voice filled with awe. "Our mothers knew each other. They were friends." "More than friends," Nia said softly. "My mother said yours had a gift for healing, that she would have made a great medicine woman if the world had been different." Emma felt something crack inside her chest. A wall she had built brick by brick over the years, fortified with anger and resentment and grief. Her mother had not just known about Apache medicine. She had learned it, studied it, believed in it enough to write it all down. And her father had rejected it anyway. "There's more," Nia said, reaching for the buckskin pouch she still kept close. "My mother gave something to a boy once, a white boy she found starving in the mountains. She saved him, taught him, marked him with the protector's eagle before the soldiers came to take him away." She opened the pouch and pulled out a small bundle of cloth. Unwrapping it revealed a piece of charcoal and paper. On the paper, drawn in careful detail, was the image of an eagle in flight, the same distinctive style Emma had seen once before years ago when her father had rolled up his sleeve to wash in the creek. "This mark," Nia continued, "my mother said it meant the bearer was chosen to protect sacred things, to stand between worlds. She told me that if I ever met someone with this mark, I could trust them with my life." Emma's breath caught. "My father. She marked my father." Nia looked at her sharply. "Your father knows my mother. He carries the eagle." Before Emma could answer, the cabin door opened. Cole stood in the entrance, snow swirling behind him, his rifle held loose in one hand. He had tracked them. Must have followed Emma days ago and simply waited, watching to see what his daughters were hiding. His eyes moved from Emma to Kate, to the woman sitting upright on the furs. Even in dim firelight, her Apache heritage was unmistakable, and she was looking at him with an expression that mixed shock and recognition and something else. Something that might have been hope. "Who are you?" Cole asked, his voice flat and carefully controlled. Nia stood slowly, favoring her injured shoulder. She met his gaze directly, showing no fear, though he was armed and she was not. "I am Nia," she said clearly, "daughter of tall feather medicine woman of the Chiricahua Apache." The name hung in the air between them like smoke. Cole's face went pale. The rifle in his hand wavered, then lowered until it pointed at the floor. "Tall feather," he repeated, his voice barely a whisper. "She was my mother," Nia continued. "And before she died, she spoke of a boy she once saved, a boy with eyes like winter sky, a boy she marked with the eagle of protection." Slowly, as if moving through deep water, Cole set his rifle against the wall. He pulled up his left sleeve, revealing the faded tattoo. The eagle wings spread in flight, rendered in the distinctive Apache style. Nia stepped closer, her eyes locked on the mark. Tears began to fall, cutting tracks through the grime still on her face. "She believed in you," Nia whispered, "even after your people drove us from our lands, even after the betrayals and the broken promises. She believed you would become what she saw in you, a protector, a bridge between worlds." Cole looked at the tattoo as if seeing it for the first time, as if the faded ink might speak and tell him what he had become instead of what he was meant to be. "Your mother," he said quietly. "When did she die?" 10 years ago. From the white man's diseases. We had no immunity, no defense. "The same year Rebecca died," Emma said from where she stood watching her father. "The same year you chose not to trust in the medicine that might have saved her." Cole flinched as if struck. He looked at his daughter, at the accusation in her eyes, at the truth he could not deny. "I'm sorry." He said the words inadequate even as he spoke them. "I was afraid. I chose wrong." "You always choose wrong," Emma said, her voice breaking. "You chose a white doctor over an Apache healer. You chose grief over being a father. You choose death over life every single day." "Emma," Kate said softly, moving to her sister's side. "Don't." But Emma was not finished. Years of silence, years of swallowed pain and buried rage came pouring out like water from a broken dam. "Do you know what today is, Pa? Do you even remember it's the day I got accepted to medical school? The day I could finally leave this place and learn to actually save people instead of watching them die, because the men in their lives are too proud or too broken to do what needs to be done." She pulled the letter from her pocket and threw it at Cole's feet. It landed in the dirt, the official seal visible even in dim light. "I was going to tell you, going to ask if I could go, but I already knew the answer. You don't want me to leave because then you'd have to face Kate alone, have to face what you've become. A ghost living in a dead woman's shadow." Cole bent and picked up the letter with shaking hands. He read it slowly, every word a blade cutting into flesh already too scarred to heal. "You should go," he said finally, his voice hollow. "You should go and become everything your mother would have wanted you to be." "I can't," Emma said, tears streaming now, "because if I leave, Kate stays here, stays with you, and I won't do that to her." "I'll be okay," Kate said, though her voice trembled. "You should go, Emma. You earned this." The four of them stood in the small cabin, the fire burning low, the storm outside beginning to ease. 4 people bound by loss and legacy, and the terrible weight of choices made and unmade. It was Nia who spoke next, her voice cutting through the tension with quiet authority. "I came here running from men who want what I carry," she said. "Men who killed my entire tribe to claim our sacred stone, men who believe it will lead them to gold and power." She pulled out the buckskin pouch again this time, removing the stone itself. It was smooth and dark, covered in markings that seemed to shift in the firelight. Ancient symbols, old magic. "This is the Soul Stone. My people have protected it for generations. It holds healing knowledge, the power to speak to the earth itself, to ask for guidance and protection." She looked at Cole, at the faded eagle on his arm. "My mother marked you for a reason. She saw something in you, a purpose, a destiny." Nia stepped closer until she stood directly before him. "I need your help, Cole Morgan. I need the protector my mother believed you would become." Cole stared at the stone, at the woman holding it, at his daughters, watching to see what he would do. For 10 years he had chosen death, had chosen isolation and grief, and the slow erosion of everything that made him human. Here now he had another choice, another chance to be what Tallfeather had seen in a starving boy all those years ago. He thought of Rebecca, thought of her final words. "It's not your fault." But it was, it always had been. Not because he failed to save her, but because he failed to trust, failed to believe, failed to honor the gift that Tallfeather had given him and the knowledge that Rebecca had tried to preserve. He could fail again, could turn Nia away, send his daughters back to the cabin, return to the grave where he knelt every morning and spoke to ghosts. Or he could choose differently this time. Cole looked at the eagle on his arm. In the firelight it almost seemed to move, to spread its wings, to remember flight. 3 days, he said quietly. "I told myself you could stay 3 days, but that was before I knew who you were, before I understood what you carry." He met Nia's eyes, and for the first time in a decade something other than grief lived in his gaze. "You're Tallfeather's daughter. You carry sacred knowledge, and men are hunting you for it." He took a breath. "Then we stop running. We make a stand. Together." Emma stared at her father as if seeing a stranger. Kate's face lit with cautious hope. And Nia, daughter of the woman who had saved Cole's life long ago, nodded once. "Together," she agreed. Outside, the storm began to clear. The first stars appeared in the darkening sky, cold and distant and watching. On Thunder Ridge, in a cabin that had sheltered hunters and hermits and now housed something like hope, 4 people made the choice to trust, when trust had only ever brought them pain. They did not know what would come, did not know that greater trials waited in the days ahead, did not know that the men hunting Nia were closer than they feared, or that the past held secrets still waiting to be uncovered. But in that moment, in the warmth of the fire and the presence of others who understood loss, they chose to believe, chose to try, chose life over the long death of isolation. Cole Morgan looked at his daughters and saw, perhaps for the first time, not the children who reminded him of what he had lost, but the women they were becoming despite his failures. And when he looked at Nia, daughter of Tallfeather, keeper of the Soulstone, he saw not just a stranger in need of protection, but a connection to the man he had once been, the man he might become again. The eagle mark on his arm grew warm, as if responding to some unseen fire, as if waking after a long sleep, as if remembering its purpose. 3 days became a week, then 2. The winter held Thunder Ridge in its grip, snow falling in sheets that erased the world beyond Cole Morgan's property. In the hunting cabin that had once sheltered only solitude and silence, life stirred in ways none of them had anticipated. Nia's wound healed with remarkable speed under Emma's care, the girl's hands guided by her mother's words and the Apache woman's quiet instruction. Each morning Emma arrived at the cabin before dawn, her breath forming clouds in the cold air, her arms laden with supplies she smuggled from the main house. Cole knew about these visits now, did not stop them, did not even question them beyond a single conversation that had lasted less than a minute. "She can't stay in that cabin forever," Emma had said on the 4th day, standing in the kitchen while Cole cleaned his rifle. "No," he had agreed. "So what are we going to do?" Cole had looked at his daughter, then really looked at her and seen Rebecca in the set of her jaw, the determination in her eyes, seen the healer she was becoming despite everything he had failed to teach her. "We let her heal," he had said quietly, "and then we figure out the rest." It was not much, but it was more than he had offered in years, and Emma had accepted it with a small nod before disappearing back into the storm. Now, on the morning of the 8th day, Cole walked to the cabin himself. He carried a bundle of firewood and a pot of stew Kate had prepared. The girl had a gift for cooking, for taking meager ingredients and transforming them into something that tasted of home and comfort. Another skill he had failed to notice, too wrapped in his own grief to see his daughters growing into people of substance and strength. He found all three of them inside. Emma sat cross-legged on the floor, Rebecca's journal open in her lap, reading aloud while Nia listened with closed eyes, occasionally interjecting corrections or additions. Kate knelt beside them, grinding herbs in a wooden bowl, her small hands working with surprising precision. They looked up when he entered the easy atmosphere, shifting slightly, not hostile but cautious, as if he were a wild animal that might bolt or attack if startled. "Brought food," Cole said, setting the pot near the fire. "And wood." "Thank you," Nia said. She had regained color in her face, the fever flush replaced by healthy bronze. The bandages on her shoulder were smaller now, the wound closing cleanly. In another week she would be strong enough to travel if she chose. Cole found himself hoping she would not choose that. Not yet. "Emma's been teaching me about your mother's journal," Nia continued, gesturing to the book. "The knowledge recorded here is remarkable. My mother spoke of your wife's intelligence, but I did not fully understand until now." Cole's throat tightened. He had not read Rebecca's journal, had not been able to face the pages filled with her handwriting, her thoughts, the parts of her that still lived in ink and paper. "She was always writing," he said quietly, "always curious about the world." "She was more than curious," Nia said. "She was a true student. Look at this entry." Emma turned the journal so Cole could see. The page was dated May 1874, more than a year before Rebecca's death. Her handwriting filled the margins, notes crowding every available space. "Tall Feather showed me how to prepare willow bark for pain relief," Emma read aloud. "But she warned me that the dose must be precise. Too little, and it does nothing. Too much, and it causes bleeding. The white doctors use it carelessly," she says. "They do not understand the balance. Everything in nature exists in balance. To heal, we must honor that balance, not fight against it." Cole listened to his daughter's voice speaking his wife's words and felt something shift inside him, a recognition of how much Rebecca had understood, how much she had tried to learn, how much had been lost when she died. "There's more," Emma said, flipping through pages. "Entries about treating infection, stopping bleeding, easing childbirth. Mom was preparing. She knew the risks of having another baby. She was trying to protect herself, but she died anyway." Cole said the words coming out harsher than he intended. Emma looked up at him, and he saw no accusation in her eyes now, only sadness. She died because someone gave her the wrong medicine, someone who either didn't know what he was doing or didn't care. "Dr. Crow," Cole said. The name still tasted bitter. "Yes," Emma said. "Dr. Crow." Nia had been watching this exchange with quiet intensity. Now she spoke, her voice careful. "This doctor, tell me about him." Cole moved to the fire and sat, his joints protesting the cold and the years. He stared into the flames, seeing the past reflected there. "Silas Crow came to Redemption about 15 years ago," he began. "Set up practice in town. Only doctor for 100 miles. Seemed competent enough. People trusted him." "Did you trust him?" Cole hesitated. "I wanted to. When Rebecca was dying, I needed to believe he could save her, needed to believe in something." "But you had another option," Nia said gently. "My mother." "Your mother was Apache," Cole said. "And I was afraid of what people would say, afraid of trusting something I didn't understand." He looked at Nia directly. "I made the wrong choice." "You made the choice you thought was right at the time," Nia countered. "That does not erase the consequence, but it does not make you evil, only human." Kate had stopped grinding herbs and now sat listening, her young face solemn. "Is that why you've been so sad, Pa? Because you think you killed Mom?" The bluntness of the question, delivered in a 10-year-old's clear voice, hit Cole like a physical blow. He opened his mouth to deny it, to soften it, to do what he had always done and avoid the truth. But Emma was watching him. Naya was watching him. And Kate deserved better than another lie wrapped in silence. Yes, he said simply. That's why. Kate stood and crossed to where he sat. She was small for her age, thin from the lean winter, but when she put her arms around him, Cole felt the strength in her embrace, the forgiveness he did not deserve. It wasn't your fault, Pa, she whispered. Mom wouldn't want you to be sad forever. Cole's arms came up slowly, hesitantly, and wrapped around his youngest daughter. The first real embrace he had given either of his children in 10 years. He felt Emma watching, felt the weight of her judgment and her hope warring in the small cabin. I'm trying, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I'm trying to be better. I know, Kate said. Then, with the resilience of children, she pulled back and smiled. Want to see what I learned Nia's teaching me about healing plants? For the next hour, Cole sat and listened as his daughters and this Apache woman discussed medicine and healing with a passion that reminded him achingly of Rebecca. He said little, contributing only when asked about where certain plants might grow on his property, but his presence seemed to matter. Emma's shoulders gradually relaxed. Kate's laughter came more easily, and Naya looked at him with something that might have been approval. It was the first peaceful morning Cole had experienced in a decade. It ended when they heard horses. Cole was on his feet instantly, hand going to the rifle he had leaned against the wall. Through the cabin's single window he could see riders approaching through the snow. 4 men on horseback moving with purpose up the trail from town. Stay inside, he ordered. Already moving toward the door. Don't come out no matter what you hear. Pa, wait, Emma started, but Cole was already outside, pulling the door closed behind him. The riders saw him and altered course, moving directly toward the cabin. Cole positioned himself in front of the door rifle, held ready but not aimed. A warning posture, one the approaching men would understand. As they drew closer, Cole recognized the lead rider and felt his blood turn cold. Augustus Reed sat tall in the saddle, his bearing military, despite civilian clothes. He wore an expensive wool coat cut in the style of a gentleman, but his eyes held the hardness of a soldier who had seen too much death and dealt too much of it. 45 years old now, his dark hair threaded with silver, his face weathered but still handsome in a harsh way. Cole had not seen him in 17 years, not since Fort Gibson, not since the day their friendship had shattered over a question of conscience and honor. Cole Morgan, Reed said, reining in his horse 20 feet from the cabin. Been a long time. Not long enough, Gus, Cole replied, his voice flat. Reed's 3 companions fanned out slightly, hands resting on weapons but not drawing them. Professional gun hands, men who killed for money and asked no questions. Cole recognized the type, had fought alongside them once, had learned to despise them. I'm not here for trouble, Reed said, raising his hands slightly to show they were empty. I'm here looking for someone, an Apache woman, about 30 years old, injured, carrying something valuable. Don't know anything about that, Cole said. Reed studied him for a long moment. You always were a terrible liar, Cole, one of your more admirable qualities, actually. My property, my business. Turn around and ride back to wherever you came from. I can't do that. Reed dismounted slowly, keeping his movements deliberate and non-threatening. I need to find this woman. My daughter's life depends on it. That got Cole's attention despite his determination to give nothing away. Your daughter, Reed's face softened slightly, the hard soldier facade cracking to reveal genuine pain beneath. Sarah, she's 8 years old, dying of some disease the doctors can't name or treat. They've given her weeks at most. He took a step closer, and Cole saw the desperation in his eyes, the sleepless nights, the terror of a father watching his child fade. I heard stories, Reed continued, about Apache medicine, about sacred objects that can heal anything. I've spent the last 6 months tracking them down, following every rumor, chasing every legend. He paused. The trail led me here, to an Apache woman carrying a healing stone, a woman who escaped when her tribe was eliminated. Eliminated? Cole repeated, his voice cold. That's a pretty word for massacre. Reed flinched. I had nothing to do with that. I'm not a soldier anymore, Cole. Haven't been for years. I'm just a father trying to save his child. by threatening an innocent woman, by hunting her like an animal. I'm not threatening anyone. I just want to talk to her, to ask for her help. I'll pay anything, give anything. Please, Cole, if you know where she is, if you're protecting her, I'm begging you. Let me speak with her." Before Cole could respond, the cabin door opened. Nia stepped out, moving with the quiet grace of someone who had spent a lifetime walking silently through forests. She looked at Reed with dark eyes that gave away nothing. "I am Nia," she said. "The one you seek." Reed took a half step forward, then stopped when Cole's rifle came up. "Easy," Reed said. "I mean no harm." "Your men killed my entire tribe," Nia said, her voice calm but edged with steel. "Women, children, elders, all of them, for this." She pulled out the soul stone, holding it up so the winter light caught its surface. The ancient markings seemed to shimmer, to move, though that might have been a trick of the eye. Reed stared at the stone with an expression of desperate hope. "Please, I know what was done to your people was wrong, unforgivable. But my daughter is innocent. She's dying. And that stone, the legends say, it can heal any illness, any wound." "Legends," Nia said. "Nia, tell me, Augustus Reed, what do you know of legends?" "I know that men don't chase them without reason. I know that your people protected that stone for generations. I know it must have power, or you wouldn't have run so far to keep it safe." Nia was quiet for a long moment, studying Reed's face. Cole watched her, trying to understand what she was thinking, what she planned to do. He saw Emma's face in the cabin window, pale and worried. Saw Kate beside her, small hands pressed against the glass. "The stone has power," Nia finally said. "Power to heal, yes, but at a price you may not wish to pay." "I'll pay any price," Reed said immediately. "Will you?" Nia stepped closer still, out of arm's reach, but near enough that her voice did not need to carry. "The healing ritual requires a channeler, someone marked by the spirits, someone willing to take the sickness into themselves so it can be purged." Her eyes flicked to Cole, to the eagle tattoo hidden beneath his sleeve. "The process can kill the channeler," she continued. "And even if they survive, they are changed, weakened. The stone takes as much as it gives." Reed's face hardened with determination. "I'll be the channeler. Take the sickness from my daughter into me. I don't care if it kills me as long as she lives." "It doesn't work that way," Nia said. "The mark chooses the channeler. The spirits choose. You cannot volunteer for this burden." "Then who?" Reed demanded, frustration bleeding into his voice. "Who has this mark? Who can save her?" Cole felt 3 sets of eyes turn to him. Reed's gaze followed theirs, landed on Cole's left arm, where the sleeve hid Tall Feather's eagle. Recognition dawned on Reed's face. You have the mark. I remember now. You spent time with the Apache as a boy. They marked you." "That was a lifetime ago," Cole said quietly. "But the mark remains," Reed said. He moved closer, careful hands still visible and empty. "Cole, I know there's bad blood between us. I know what happened at Fort Gibson. I know you blame me for how things went down, but this isn't about us. This is about a little girl who never hurt anyone, a child who just wants to see her 9th birthday." Cole's jaw tightened. He thought of Kate, of Emma, of how far he would go to save them, how much he would sacrifice, how little he would care about old wounds or ancient grudges if one of his daughters lay dying. "Where is she?" he asked. "Your daughter. Where is she now?" Hope flared in Reed's eyes. "In town, at the hotel. I have a nurse caring for her, but she's fading fast. Every day she gets weaker." Cole looked at Nia. "Can the stone really heal her?" "If the ritual is performed correctly, yes," Nia said. "But Cole, you must understand what you would be taking on. This is not a simple healing. This is transferring death itself from one vessel to another. The channeler bears the full weight of the disease, fights it with their own spirit, burns it away with their own life force. Few survive the process intact, but some do survive. Some," Nia admitted. "Those with strong spirits, those with reasons to live that outweigh the pull of death." Cole thought about that. Thought about the 10 years he had spent half dead, already going through motions, existing without living. Thought about the grave he visited each morning, and the daughters he had failed, and the legacy of pain he had built from his own cowardice. Maybe this was why Tall Feather had marked him all those years ago. Maybe this was the purpose the eagle represented. Not protection through violence, but protection through sacrifice, through choosing to carry burdens others could not bear. "I'll do it," he said. "Pa no." Emma burst from the cabin, Kate close behind. "You can't. You heard what she said. It could kill you." "It might kill me," Cole corrected. "But it will definitely kill Reed's daughter if we do nothing." "She's not our responsibility," Emma said desperately. "We don't owe Reed anything." Cole looked at his eldest daughter and saw the fear beneath her anger. Fear of losing him just when she had started to get him back. Fear of being alone again. Fear of that terrible responsibility she had carried for too long. "No," he said gently. "We don't owe Reed anything, but we owe ourselves. We owe it to ourselves to be better than our worst moments, to choose healing instead of hurt, to save instead of letting die." He turned to Reed. "But I have conditions." "Anything," Reed said immediately. "First you tell me the truth, all of it, about Fort Gibson, about what happened after I left, about how you ended up here now hunting an Apache woman for a healing stone." Reed's face went pale. He glanced at his men, then back at Cole. "That's a long story, and some of it isn't pretty. I don't care if it's pretty, I care if it's true." Reed was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right, the truth." He gestured to his men. "Wait here. This is between me and Cole." The 3 hired guns looked unhappy, but dismounted, standing watch, while Reed followed Cole away from the cabin, out of earshot but still visible. Nia, Emma, and Kate watched from the doorway, tension radiating from their frames. When they were alone, Reed spoke. "Fort Gibson," he began. 1868. You were right, and I was wrong. I wanted to make an example of that Apache village, wanted to show the tribes that resistance meant death. You argued for negotiation, for finding a peaceful solution. You called it weakness," Cole said. "Called me a traitor to my own people." "I did," Reed admitted. "And when you warned the village, helped them escape before we could attack, I was furious. You cost me my command, destroyed my military career. The army branded me soft, unable to control my own men. So you hated me for it." "Yes," Reed said simply. "For years I hated you, blamed you for everything that went wrong after. I left the army, tried to make a life in business, met a woman, married her, had Sarah." His voice softened when he spoke his daughter's name. "My wife died in childbirth," Reed continued. "Complications the doctors couldn't fix. Sarah survived, but she's always been fragile, prone to illness. And 6 months ago she came down with something that won't let go. The doctors tried everything. Nothing worked. She just kept getting weaker." "So you started looking for alternatives," Cole said. "Desperate men do desperate things," Reed agreed. "I heard about Apache healing, about sacred objects. I hired researchers, investigators. The trail led me to a tribe in New Mexico, the Keepers of the Soul Stone." Cole felt a chill run down his spine. "What did you do, Gus?" "I didn't do anything," Reed said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I hired a man, a tracker named Crow, Silas Crow. He said he could negotiate with the tribe, convince them to let us use the stone for Sarah." The name hit Cole like a bullet. "Crow. Dr. Silas Crow?" Reed looked confused. "He's not a doctor. He's a tracker and negotiator. Used to work with the army, relocating tribes." Then his eyes widened. "Wait. You know him?" "He was Rebecca's doctor," Cole said, his voice dead. "He was the one who gave her the medicine that killed her." The 2 men stared at each other as the pieces fell into place. Reed's face went from confused to horrified as understanding dawned. "No," Reed said. "No, that can't be right. Crow told me he was just a tracker. He never mentioned being a doctor, never mentioned knowing you at all." "When did you hire him?" Reed hesitated. "The first time I met Crow was in 1875. I was still in Denver trying to rebuild my life after the army discharged me. He came to my office one day, said he'd heard about Fort Gibson, about what you'd done to my career." Cole's jaw tightened. "And he said he'd also heard that something terrible had happened to you recently, that your wife had died. He claimed to have been passing through Montana, heard about it from townspeople." Reed's face darkened with realization. "But he never said he was the doctor who treated her. He presented himself as just someone gathering information." "He was scouting," Nia said quietly, "planting seeds." "I didn't hire him then," Reed continued. "I was trying to let go of my anger. I'd met Mary by then. We were courting. I told Crow I wasn't interested in revenge. But he came back, Cole said, 3 years later, 1878, after Mary died, giving birth to Sarah. After months of watching my daughter grow weaker with no doctor able to help her. Reed's voice cracked. That's when he approached me again, said he knew about rare healing methods, Apache medicine, sacred objects, and this time, desperate and broken, I listened. So you hired him to find the soul stone, Cole said. Yes, but not to hurt you. I swear, Cole, I wanted to save my daughter. Crow never mentioned you. Never said your wife's death was connected to him. He presented it as two separate tragedies. Reed's face contorted with horror. Don't you see he killed Rebecca 3 years before I ever hired him? He did it on his own. He was setting the stage, creating the circumstances that would make me useful to him later. The revelation settled over them like falling snow. Crow hadn't been Reed's weapon. Reed had been Crow's pawn all along. My God, Reed whispered. He murdered your wife just to manipulate me years later. What kind of monster does that? The kind we're about to stop, Cole said grimly. Cole's hand went to his rifle, but Nia's voice cut through the rising violence. Wait, she called, moving toward them. There's more to this story, more you both need to know. She had followed them, Emma and Kate trailing behind, despite Cole's earlier orders to stay inside. Now she stood between the two men, her dark eyes hard. You hired Silas Crow, she said to Reed. A man who specialized in relocating tribes, in driving my people from their lands. I didn't know, Reed said. I swear I just thought he was a tracker. 6 months ago you sent him to my tribe, Nia continued, her voice shaking with controlled rage, to negotiate for the Soul Stone. Do you know what his negotiation looked like, Augustus Reed? Do you know how he asked for our cooperation? Reed's face had gone ashen. He said they refused, said they were hostile, that he had to retreat. He lied, Nia said flatly. He came with 10 armed men. They surrounded our village at night, killed the guards first, then the elders, then anyone who tried to fight back. When it was over, 73 people were dead. Men, women, children, all of them slaughtered for this stone. She held up the soul stone, her hand trembling. I survived because I was gathering medicine plants in the high country, she said. When I returned, I found my home burned, my people dead, and Crow standing in the ashes with this stone in his hands. I attacked him, wounded him with an arrow to his side, and took the stone back. I've been running ever since. Reed staggered back as if struck. No, he told me the tribe attacked his men, that he barely escaped with his life, that the stone was lost. He lied to you, Cole said quietly, just like he lied to me about being a doctor. Just like he lied about the medicine he gave Rebecca. Crow is the real enemy here, not you, not Nia, him. The three of them stood in the snow, the weight of revelation settling over them like the cold. Emma and Kate watched from nearby, their young faces struggling to process the layers of deception and death. Where is he? Cole asked Reed. Where's Crow now? In town. Reed said, his voice hollow. He's been helping me search for Nia. He said he wanted to make things right, to find her and try to negotiate properly this time. He wants to finish what he started, Nia said, to take the stone and eliminate the last witness to his massacre. Then we need to get to town before he realizes where you are, Cole said. He turned to his daughters. Emma, Kate, you stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. I'm coming with you, Emma said firmly. No. Yes, she interrupted. If Crow killed Mom, if he's responsible for everything that happened, then I deserve to face him. I deserve answers. Cole looked at his daughter and saw the steel in her spine, the determination that would make her a great doctor someday. Saw Rebecca in every line of her face. All right, he said, but you stay behind me. You don't take risks. Understood? Emma nodded. Kate, you'll stay with Nia, Cole continued. Help keep her safe. The little girl looked like she wanted to argue, but nodded solemnly instead. Reed spoke up, his voice strained. My men, I need to tell them what's happening. They're hired guns, but they're not murderers. They won't follow Crow if they know the truth. You better hope you're right about that, Cole said. They walked back to where the 3 hired hands waited. Reed explained quickly, his words tumbling over each other in his haste to make them understand. The men listened, their expressions hardening as they learned about Crow's deception. "We signed on to protect a man looking for healing for his daughter," one of them said, "not to help a mass murderer cover his tracks." "Then ride with us," Cole said. "Help us end this." The man looked at his companions, who nodded. "We're with you." As they prepared to ride for town, Nia pulled Cole aside. Her hand was warm on his arm, her touch gentle despite the strength he knew she possessed. "Cole Morgan," she said quietly, "you should know something before you face this man." "What?" "The Soul Stone. Its power is real, but to use it requires not just the mark you carry, but a pure intention, a willingness to sacrifice without thought of reward or recognition." She looked at him intently. "My mother saw that quality in you as a boy. She believed you would grow into a man who understood the true cost of protection. Not violence in defense of the weak, but the willingness to suffer so others would not have to." "I'm not that man," Cole said. "I've spent 10 years hiding from pain, not embracing it." "Perhaps," Nia allowed. "Or perhaps you've spent 10 years preparing for this moment, learning what it means to lose everything so you would understand what others stand to lose." She pulled back her sleeve, revealing a marking on her own arm. Not an eagle like Cole's, but a spiral pattern that seemed to draw the eye inward. "My mother marked me too," she said. "The mark of the keeper, the one who guards the stone until the protector is ready to use it." Cole stared at the marking, then at Nia's face. "You knew. When you came here, when you found us, you knew I carried the eagle." "I hoped," Nia corrected. "My mother told me about the boy she marked. Told me his eyes were the color of winter sky. That if I ever needed protection, I should seek the eagle." She smiled slightly. "I thought I was running blindly into the wilderness, but perhaps I was running toward exactly where I needed to be." Cole looked back at the cabin where Kate waited at Emma, preparing her rifle to ride with them, at Reed standing with slumped shoulders and the weight of unwitting complicity heavy on his frame. "I don't believe in destiny," he said. "Neither do I," Nia agreed. "I believe in choices, and you keep choosing to protect people even when it costs you. That's not destiny. That's character." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "When we face Crow, there will be violence. There will be pain. But remember that the stone responds not to hatred or vengeance, but to the willingness to heal, even those who have hurt us, even those who deserve our rage." "You're asking me to forgive the man who killed my wife." "No," Nia said. "I'm asking you to understand that the stone's power comes from breaking cycles of violence, not perpetuating them. If you channel hatred through the mark, it will destroy you. If you channel compassion, even reluctant compassion, it might save you." Cole thought about that as they mounted up, thought about Rebecca and Tall Feather, and all the ways good intentions twisted into tragedy. Thought about the choice he had made 10 years ago, choosing fear over trust, and the choice he was making now, choosing to stand with a woman whose people he had been taught to fear, and against a man who looked like civilization, but acted like chaos. The ride to town took 2 hours through snow that was beginning to melt under a weak winter sun. They traveled in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Cole kept Emma close, watching her handle her rifle with the competence he had taught her, wondering when his little girl had become this capable young woman. Redemption appeared on the horizon, a collection of wooden buildings huddled together against the vast Montana wilderness. Smoke rose from chimneys. The sounds of daily life carried on the cold air. Everything appeared normal, peaceful, ordinary. But Cole knew that appearance was deceptive, knew that somewhere in that town Silas Crow waited, a man who wore the mask of healer while dealing death. A man who had destroyed so many lives in pursuit of what? Money, power. Simple cruelty they were about to find out. As they reached the edge of town, Reed raised his hand, signaling a halt. "The hotel is on Main Street. Sarah's in the room on the 2nd floor. Crow has been staying in the room next to hers, said he wanted to be close in case she needed medical attention." "How convenient," Emma said bitterly. "I'll confront him," Reed said. "It's my responsibility. My hiring of him led to all of this." "No," Cole said. "We do this together, all of us. He needs to face everyone he's hurt." They rode into town, slowly drawing looks from townspeople who recognized Cole as the hermit from Thunder Ridge and wondered what brought him down from his isolation. They tied their horses outside the hotel and entered together a strange group united by shared pain and the need for answers. The hotel clerk looked up as they approached, his eyes widening at the sight of so many people moving with obvious purpose. "Mr. Reed," he stammered. "Is everything all right? What room is Dr. Crow in?" Reed asked. "Room 14, right next to your daughter. But, sir, he's not there right now. He left about an hour ago. Said he was going to the general store for medicine." Cole and Reed exchanged looks. "Show us to Sarah's room," Reed said. "Now." The clerk led them upstairs, his hands shaking as he unlocked the door to room 13. Inside, a little girl lay in bed, her skin pale as the sheets, her breathing shallow and labored. Dark circles ringed her eyes. Her lips held a bluish tint. Reed rushed to her side, taking her small hand in his. "Sarah, baby, can you hear me?" The girl's eyes fluttered open. "Papa," she whispered, "you came back." "I'm here, sweetheart, I'm here, and I'm going to make you better." Sarah's gaze drifted past her father to Cole. "Who are they? Friends," Reed said, though the word felt strange applied to Cole after so many years of enmity. "Friends who are going to help you." A sound from the hallway made them all turn. Footsteps on the stairs, multiple sets, heavy and deliberate. Silas Crow entered the room, flanked by two men with rifles. He stopped when he saw the gathered group, his weathered face registering surprise and then calculation. "Well," he said mildly, "this is unexpected." He was older than Cole remembered, his hair completely white now, his face lined and rough, but his eyes held the same cold intelligence that had fooled Cole 10 years ago. Eyes that assessed and measured and found the weakness in every defense. "Dr. Crow," Reed said, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. "Or should I say Mr. Crow, since apparently you were never actually a doctor." Crow's expression did not change. "I've had many professions over the years. Healer is just one of them." "Killer is another," Cole said, stepping forward. "You poisoned my wife. On Reed's orders." "Not orders," Crow corrected calmly. "Suggestions. Mr. Reed wanted you to suffer loss. I simply provided the means." Reed lunged forward, but Cole caught him. "Not yet," Cole said quietly. "Let him talk. Let him condemn himself." Crow smiled slightly. "There's nothing to condemn. I did what I was paid to do, what I'm always paid to do. Remove obstacles, solve problems, acquire assets." "The Soul Stone," Emma said. "You massacred an entire tribe for it." "Business," Crow said with a shrug. "They had something valuable. My client wanted it. They refused to negotiate reasonably, so I took more direct action." "You murdered children," Cole said, his voice deadly quiet. "I eliminated future threats," Crow replied. "Apache children grow into Apache warriors. It's preventative maintenance." The casual cruelty of it, the complete lack of remorse, hit everyone in the room like a physical force. Even Crow's hired guns shifted uncomfortably, their fingers moving away from their weapons. "Why?" Reed asked. "Why lie to me about all of it? Why not just tell me what you'd done?" "Because you're weak," Crow said dismissively. "You talk about doing whatever it takes, but you balk at the actual cost. You wanted that stone, but you didn't want to know what acquiring it would require. So I gave you plausible deniability." He looked at Sarah, still lying weak and pale in the bed. "Besides, I don't actually need you anymore. I have the location of the Soul Stone now. That Apache woman is here somewhere, probably hiding nearby. Once I acquire the stone, I can sell it to the highest bidder. Your daughter's illness is unfortunate, but hardly my concern." Reed made a sound somewhere between a sob and a growl. "She's dying. I hired you to save her." "You hired me to find the stone," Crow corrected. "What I do with it afterward was never part of our agreement." Cole saw Emma's hand tighten on her rifle, saw the rage building in Reed's frame, saw the cold calculation in Crow's eyes as he assessed his chances of escaping this confrontation. And he made a choice. "Emma," he said quietly, "take Kate and Naya and go. Now. Now." Something in his voice made her obey. She backed toward the door, her rifle still trained on Crow, but her body moving toward escape. "You're not leaving with that stone," Crow said, gesturing to his men. "Kill them." But his hired guns did not move. One of them lowered his rifle deliberately. "We're not murderers," the man said. "You want to kill women and children, you do it yourself." Crow's face twisted with rage. In one smooth motion he drew a pistol from his coat and fired. The hired gun went down, blood blooming on his chest. The second guard raised his rifle, but Crow shot him too, the reports deafening in the small room. Cole's rifle came up, but Crow was already moving, grabbing Sarah from the bed and pressing his pistol to the little girl's head. "Drop it," Crow ordered. "Drop all your weapons or I kill her right now." Time crystallized into a single moment of terrible clarity. Cole Morgan stood with his rifle half raised, staring at the man who had destroyed his life, now holding a dying child hostage. Silas Crow's pistol pressed against Sarah Reed's temple, the little girl too weak to even cry out her fever. Bright eyes wide with fear, she barely had the strength to feel. "I said drop it," Crow repeated, his voice calm, despite the violence he had just committed. Two men lay bleeding on the floor, their lives spilling out onto worn wooden boards. "All of you, weapons on the ground, now!" Cole let his rifle clatter to the floor. Beside him, Reed did the same, his face contorted with helpless rage and terror. Emma hesitated, her young hands white-knuckled on her own weapon, but a sharp look from Cole made her comply. "Good," Crow said. "Now we're going to do this simply. That Apache woman, the one you're protecting, she has the Soul Stone. Bring it to me within the hour, or the girl dies. Her blood will be on your hands, Morgan. Again." The casual cruelty of that last word, the way Crow wielded Rebecca's death like a weapon, nearly broke Cole's control. His hands clenched into fists, every instinct screaming to attack, to fight, to make this man pay for every life he had ruined. But Sarah's life hung in the balance. One wrong move and Crow would pull the trigger. "You'll never make it out of town alive," Cole said quietly. "Kill her, and you lose your only leverage." "Perhaps," Crow allowed. "But I'm a man who has accepted that my time may be short. Can you say the same, Reed? Can you gamble your daughter's life on the hope that I'm bluffing?" Reed's voice came out strangled. "Please, she's 8 years old. She never hurt anyone. Let her go, and I'll give you anything. Money, property, everything I own." "I don't want your money," Crow said. "I want the stone, and the woman who killed my men and scarred me for life." He shifted slightly, revealing an ugly scar on his side where Naya's arrow had found its mark during the massacre. "That Apache bitch put an arrow in me," he continued, his calm facade cracking to show the rage beneath. "Left me bleeding in the dirt while she ran off with what belongs to me. I've been tracking her for 6 months. I'm not leaving without settling that debt." The door to the hallway stood open. Through it, Cole could hear Emma's footsteps racing down the stairs, going for Nia and Kate, warning them or bringing them. He was not sure which. He had to buy time, had to keep Crow talking until he could find an opening, a weakness, a chance. "You won't get what you want through threats," Cole said, forcing his voice to remain steady. "The stone isn't just an object you can use. It requires a ritual, specific conditions. You could hold that girl for days and still be no closer to healing her." "Then you'll perform the ritual," Crow said. "I know about the mark. I've done my research. You're the channeler, the one who can make the stone work. You'll do it because if you don't, I start cutting pieces off this child until you agree." Sarah whimpered, the first sound she had made. The noise seemed to tear something inside Reed, his whole body shaking with impotent fury. "You're insane," Reed said. "I'm practical," Crow corrected. "I've invested 6 months and considerable resources into acquiring that stone. I'm not leaving empty-handed." "Why?" Cole asked. "What's it worth to you? What could possibly be valuable enough to justify the things you've done?" Crow smiled, and the expression held no warmth. "Everything I've done has been justified by simple economics, Morgan. That stone is worth a fortune to the right buyer. Wealthy men who fear death, who would pay any price for a chance at extended life. One healing properly auctioned could fund my retirement. Multiple healings, I'd be set for life." "You never intended to help Sarah at all," Reed realized, horror dawning on his face. "This was always about profit." "Of course," Crow said. "Though I will admit your daughter's illness provided excellent cover. A desperate father searching for a miracle cure. Who would question that? Who would suspect the true purpose?" Cole's mind raced, calculating angles and distances. Crow stood near the window with Sarah held against him, using her small body as a shield. The pistol never wavered from her head. One shot, one chance, but the risk was too great. If Cole missed, if his bullet struck Sarah instead, or if Crow pulled the trigger in reflex, The child would die. He needed another option. The sound of footsteps on the stairs drew everyone's attention. Emma appeared in the doorway, her face pale but determined. Behind her came Naya, moving with quiet grace despite her still healing shoulder, and Kate, small and frightened, but refusing to hide. "We heard," Nia said, her dark eyes fixed on Crow. "I have your stone." She held up the soul stone, its ancient markings catching the light from the window. Even in the tension of the moment, Cole felt something stir at the sight of it. A warmth, a recognition, as if the stone itself was alive and aware. Crow's eyes lit with greed. "Give it to me." "No," Nia said calmly. "I will make you an offer instead. I will perform the healing ritual on this child. I will save her life. And in exchange you will leave, forever. No pursuit, no revenge, just walk away." "You think I trust you?" Crow laughed. "The moment I let her go, you'll run or fight. No, here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me that stone. Then you're going to teach me how to use it. And if you refuse or try to trick me, I start killing people. Starting with this girl." "The stone won't work for you," Nia said. "It requires purity of intention, a willingness to sacrifice for others without thought of personal gain. You possess none of these qualities." "Then Morgan will channel it," Crow said. "He has the mark. He can make it work." "I could," Cole agreed, slowly an idea forming. "But the ritual is complex. It requires preparation, specific herbs gathered under moonlight, prayers spoken in Apache. It can't be rushed or forced." He was lying. Had no idea if any of that was true. But he needed Crow to believe it needed to buy more time. Crow's eyes narrowed. "How long?" "Until nightfall at least," Cole said. "Maybe longer." "You're lying." "Then pull that trigger," Cole said, calling the bluff. "Kill her now. But you'll never learn how to use the stone. You'll have murdered a child for nothing." The room held its breath. Crow's finger tightened on the trigger. Sarah's eyes fluttered closed, too weak even for fear now. Reed looked like he might collapse. Then Crow smiled. "Fine, we'll do it your way, but with modifications." He gestured with his free hand toward one of his fallen men, the one still breathing shallowly despite the gunshot wound. "Maddox, get up." The wounded man stirred, groaning. Cole had not realized he was still alive. Blood soaked his shirt, but he managed to rise to one knee, then to his feet, swaying but upright. His hand went to his own pistol. "Maddox is loyal to me," Crow said. "He understands that loyalty is rewarded. He'll make sure no one tries anything heroic while we prepare this ritual." Maddox raised his pistol, aiming it at the group near the door. His face was pale from blood loss, but his hand remained steady. "Now," Crow continued, "we're going to move to somewhere more private, more defensible. That cabin where you've been hiding Morgan, the one out past your property. We'll do the ritual there, away from interfering townspeople." "Sarah can't travel," Reed protested. "She's too weak." "Then I guess we better move quickly," Crow said, "or she won't live to see her next sunrise anyway." They had no choice. Under Maddox's gun, and with Crow still holding Sarah, they gathered what supplies Nia said they would need. Herbs from the doctor's own kit, ironically. Blankets to keep Sarah warm during transport. Candles for the ritual. The journey back to Thunder Ridge took 3 hours on horseback. Crow, riding with Sarah, slumped against him, Reed following close behind in an agony of helpless worry. Maddox brought up the rear, his pistol trained on Cole and the others, though his movements grew increasingly unsteady as blood loss took its toll. Cole rode beside Naya, close enough to speak quietly without being overheard. "Can you really save her?" he asked. "With the ritual, if we can perform it properly," Nia said. "But Cole, you must understand, the channeler takes the disease into themselves. They burn it away with their own life force. What this child has, this wasting sickness, it's powerful. Whoever channels it may not survive." "Then we make sure they do," Cole said. Naya looked at him intently. "You're planning something." "I'm planning to end this," Cole said, "one way or another." They reached the hunting cabin as the sun began its descent toward the western peaks. Crow ordered everyone inside Maddox, taking up position by the door, while Crow finally released Sarah, laying her on the pile of furs where Naya had recovered from her own wounds. The little girl looked worse than before, her breathing shallow and irregular, her skin taking on a grayish pallor. Reed knelt beside her, holding her hand, whispering words of comfort she might not even hear. "Begin," Crow ordered, gesturing at Naya with his pistol. "Do whatever needs to be done." Naya looked at Cole. In her eyes he saw a question, a choice being offered. He could fight, now could try to overpower Crow, and Maddox could risk everything on violence and speed, or he could trust. Could believe in the power of the mark on his arm and the stone in Nia's hands. Could choose healing instead of hurting, even now, even with everything at stake. He nodded once. Trust. Nia began to prepare. She had Kate help her arrange candles in a circle around Sarah's prone form. Emma gathered the herbs and prepared them according to instructions Nia gave in a quiet, steady voice. The ritual took shape slowly, each element placed with careful intention. Cole watched and waited, his muscles coiled for action, but his mind clear. He thought about Rebecca, about the choice he had made 10 years ago to trust the wrong person to believe in civilization over wisdom. He would not make that mistake again. "It's ready," Nia finally said, kneeling beside the circle of candles. "But I need the channeler to take position." She looked at Cole. Everyone looked at Cole. "No," Reed said suddenly. "I'll do it. She's my daughter. Let me take the sickness. Let me save her." "You don't have the mark," Nia said gently. "I don't care. There must be a way." "There isn't," Nia said. "The spirits choose the channeler. The mark identifies them. Without it, the ritual fails and everyone dies." "Then mark me now," Reed demanded. "It doesn't work that way," Cole said quietly. "Tallfeather saw something in me as a child, some quality or purpose. She marked me for that reason. It's not something that can be given, only recognized." He stepped into the circle, kneeling opposite Naya, with Sarah between them. The little girl's eyes opened briefly, confused and frightened. "It's all right," Cole said softly. "We're going to help you, but you need to be brave for a little while longer." "Hurts," Sarah whispered. "Everything hurts." "I know," Cole said, "but soon it won't. Soon you'll feel better than you have in months." Naya placed the soul stone in the center of the circle. It seemed to pulse with inner light, responding to their presence and intention. She began to sing low and melodic words in Apache that Cole did not understand, but felt in his bones. The mark on his arm began to warm, then to burn. He gasped as pain lanced through him, as if the eagle tattoo was being carved into his flesh all over again. But he did not pull away, did not break the circle. Naya's song grew stronger. Kate and Emma joined hands outside the circle, watching with wide eyes as the candles flared brighter without anyone touching them. The air itself seemed to thicken, to take on weight and presence. Cole felt something flowing into him, not pain exactly, but awareness. But he could sense Sarah's sickness, could feel it like a living thing coiled inside her small body. A parasitic presence that fed on her life force, that would not stop until it consumed everything she was. "Now," Nia said, her voice cutting through the song, "take it into yourself. Draw it out of her and into you." Cole reached out, not with his hands, but with something deeper, with will and intention, and the power of the mark that burned on his arm. He felt the sickness respond, felt it resist, felt it fight to maintain its hold on Sarah, and then, impossibly, he felt it move. The sensation was horrible, beyond description, like drinking poison, like welcoming death into his own body. The sickness flowed from Sarah into Cole, transferring through the soul stone's power, and he felt his own strength beginning to fail. His vision blurred. His lungs struggled to draw breath. Every cell in his body screamed in protest as the disease took hold, as it tried to do to him what it had been doing to Sarah for months. "Keep going," Nia urged. "You must take all of it. If even a trace remains, it will return." Cole drew deeper, pulled harder. Sarah's color began to improve, her breathing to steady. But his own deteriorated in direct proportion. He could feel the life draining out of him, could feel death approaching with absolute certainty. This was the price. This was what it meant to be a channeler, not just to heal, but to suffer in place of another, to choose death so that someone else might live. He thought about Rebecca, about how he had failed to save her, about 10 years of grief and guilt and wasted life. Perhaps this was his redemption. Perhaps this was why Tallfeather had marked him all those years ago, so that when the moment came when someone needed saving, he would have the courage to pay the ultimate price. "It's done," Nia said. "The sickness is in you now. Sarah is clean." Reed sobbed with relief, gathering his daughter into his arms. She opened her eyes fully clear and aware for the first time in months and smiled at her father. But Cole was dying. He could feel it. The disease that had been slowly killing Sarah over months was working much faster in him, concentrated and virulent. His heart stuttered. His vision darkened at the edges. "Now what?" he managed to ask Nia. "Now you must burn it away," she said. "Use your own life force to destroy the sickness before it destroys you." "How?" "You fight," Nia said simply. "You find a reason to live stronger than your desire to die. And you burn everything else away." Cole closed his eyes, searching inside himself for that reason. For 10 years he had had no reason to live beyond obligation and habit, had gone through motions without meaning, had existed without truly being alive. But things had changed. He had daughters who needed him, who deserved better than a ghost for a father. He had a chance to be the man Rebecca had believed him to be, to honor Tall Feather's faith, to choose life after choosing death for so long. The mark on his arm blazed with heat. Cole poured everything he had into it, every ounce of will and determination and desperate hope. The sickness fought back, tried to spread, tried to overwhelm him completely. And then just when Cole thought he would lose, would slip into darkness forever, something shifted. The sickness began to burn, not his body, but the disease itself. He felt it withering, dying, consumed by a fire that came from somewhere deeper than flesh and bone. The mark, the stone, the power of intention and sacrifice combining into something greater than the sum of its parts. The pain was extraordinary. Cole heard himself scream, heard Emma cry out his name, heard Kate sobbing. But he did not stop, could not stop, had to see it through to the end. And then, like a fever breaking, it was over. Cole collapsed, his body drenched in sweat, every muscle trembling. But he was alive. Weak, damaged, changed in ways he could not yet understand, but alive. Emma and Kate rushed to his side, their hands on him, their voices urgent and afraid. "I'm all right," Cole managed, though his voice came out as barely a whisper. "I'm all right." Nia sat back, exhausted but smiling. "You did it. You actually did it." Crow's voice cut through the moment of relief like a knife. "Touching," he said. "Very touching. Now give me the stone." Cole had forgotten about him. They all had too focused on the ritual to remember the threat still standing in the corner with a gun. Crow stepped forward, his pistol aimed at Nia. "I've seen what it can do now," he said. "Seen how it works, and I'm taking it." "You can't use it," Nia said. "You lack the mark." "Then I'll find someone who has one," Crow said, "or I'll force Morgan to do it again. Either way, that stone is mine." He reached for it, his hand extending toward the soul stone still glowing faintly in the center of the circle. Maddox spoke from the doorway, his voice weak but clear. "Boss, we got a problem." "What?" Crow snapped, not taking his eyes off the stone. "Riders, coming fast from town. Looks like the sheriff and maybe a dozen men." Crow's face twisted with rage. "Damn it, someone must have heard the shots at the hotel." He grabbed for the soul stone, but Nia was faster. She snatched it up and held it close, her eyes defiant. "You'll have to kill me to take it," she said. "That can be arranged," Crow replied, his pistol swinging toward her. The shot that rang out did not come from Crow's gun. Maddox, wounded and dying, had fired one last time, but in his weakened state his aim was off. The bullet meant for Nia struck Kate instead, the little girl standing just behind the Apache woman. Kate made a small sound somewhere between surprise and pain, and fell. Time stopped. Cole heard Emma scream, heard Reed's shocked gasp, heard his own voice making sounds that might have been words or might have been pure anguish. He crawled to where Kate lay, blood spreading across her stomach, her gray eyes wide and confused. "Pa," she said. "Pa, it hurts." "I know, baby," Cole said, his hands pressing against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding that poured between his fingers. "I know, but you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine." But she was not going to be fine. He could see that. The wound was too deep, too close to vital organs. Without immediate help, Kate would bleed to death within minutes. "The stone," Cole said, looking up at Nia. "We can save her, like we saved Sarah." Nia's face was stricken. "Cole, you just performed a channeling. Your body can't take another one so soon. It will kill you." "I don't care." "Pano," Emma said, kneeling beside him. "You can't. You'll die." "Then I'll die," Cole said simply, "but I won't watch another person I love bleed out while I do nothing." He looked at Kate, his youngest daughter, the child whose birth had cost Rebecca's life, the child he had resented and ignored and failed to love because he blamed her for his loss. "I'm sorry," he whispered to her. "I'm so sorry I wasn't the father you deserved. But I can be the father you need right now. I can save you." Kate's hand found his small and bloody and weak. "Don't go, Pa. Don't leave us." "I'm not going anywhere," Cole lied. "I'm right here." He turned to Nia. "Do it, now, before we lose her." "Cole, please." Nia looked at him, at Kate, at Emma, sobbing beside them. She looked at the soul stone in her hands, at the power it held, and the price it demanded. "There might be another way," she said slowly. "What way?" "The ritual can be modified. Instead of one channeler taking all the burden, two could share it. It's never been done as far as I know, but theoretically, if we had two people with marks—" She pulled back her own sleeve, showing the spiral pattern on her arm. "I'm marked too," she said. "Not as a protector, but as a keeper. It's a different kind of channel, but it might work. We could share the burden, take half the damage each." "You'd risk your life for Kate?" Cole asked. "I would risk my life for the daughter of the woman who honored my mother's teachings," Nia said. "For the child of a man trying to become what he was meant to be." "Do it," Cole said. They worked quickly, Nia repositioning herself on Kate's other side. The little girl had gone pale, her breathing shallow. They were running out of time. But before they could begin, Crow made his move. Enraged by the loss of control, by the imminent arrival of the law, by the entire situation spiraling beyond his grasp, he lunged for the soul stone. His hand closed around it just as Nia tried to pull it away. The stone flared with brilliant light. Crow screamed. The stone was responding to his touch, to his intention, but not in the way he wanted. Instead of granting power, it was judging him, finding him wanting, burning away the corruption and greed that defined him. He fell back, his hand blistered and smoking, the soul stone falling from his grip. Nia caught it, cradling it carefully. "The stone protects itself," she said. "It cannot be taken by force or used for evil. My mother told me this, but I had never seen it proven." Crow clutched his burned hand, his face contorted with pain and fury. "This isn't over," he gasped. "I'll find another way. The cabin door burst open. Sheriff Hank Dawson stood in the entrance, his shotgun raised, half a dozen armed men behind him. "Silas Crow," Dawson said, "you're under arrest for murder, attempted murder, and about a dozen other crimes I can think of." Crow's hand went for his pistol, but Dawson was faster. The shotgun blast echoed in the confined space, and Crow went down wounded, but alive, his pistol skittering across the floor. "Get the doctor," Dawson ordered one of his men. Then, seeing Kate bleeding on the floor, "No, get 2 doctors, and hurry." Cole barely heard him. All his attention was on Kate, on the life draining out of her with each passing second. "We can't wait for doctors," he said to Nia. "We have to do it now." Nia nodded. She placed the soul stone between them over Kate's wound. Cole and Nia both placed their hands on it, their marked arms touching. "Together," Nia said. "On 3, 1, 2, 3. The world exploded into sensation. Cole felt the bullet wound as if it were in his own body, felt the tearing of flesh, the damage to organs, the life bleeding away. But this time, he was not alone in bearing it. Nia was there with him, sharing the burden, her strength combining with his. They pulled the injury into themselves, dividing it between them. Cole felt his own body respond, felt pain blooming in his stomach, though no bullet had touched him. Beside him, Nia gasped, experiencing the same phantom wound. But together they were strong enough. Together they could burn away. The damage could heal the injury by taking it into themselves and destroying it with combined will. Kate's bleeding slowed, then stopped. The wound began to close, tissue knitting back together with impossible speed. But the cost was brutal. Cole felt his strength failing, felt consciousness slipping away. Nia swayed beside him, her own face pale with strain. Almost, she whispered. Almost done. One final push. One last expenditure of life force and will. Cole gave everything he had left, every drop of strength, every spark of determination. The wound closed completely. Kate's eyes opened clear and aware, and Cole collapsed. He was aware of voices calling his name, of hands on him trying to keep him in the world, of Emma crying and Kate reaching for him and Dawson shouting for help that would not arrive in time. He was dying. He could feel it. Had given too much, pushed too far. The channeling, the healing, the sacrifice. It was too much for any human body to withstand, but he had done it, had saved Sarah, had saved Kate, had finally, after 10 years of choosing death and isolation and grief, chosen life. Chosen to be the protector Tall Feather had believed he could become. As darkness closed in, Cole felt at peace, felt Rebecca's presence somehow telling him it was all right to let go, that he had done enough, that he could rest now. But another voice cut through the gathering dark, Nia's voice speaking in Apache words he did not understand but felt in his soul. She was calling him back, refusing to let him go, using the last of her own strength to anchor him to life. The soul stone flared one final time, not to heal a wound, but to seal a bond. Between Cole and Nia, between the protector and the keeper, between two people who had found each other in the wilderness and chosen to trust when trust seemed impossible. Cole gasped, air flooding back into his lungs. His heart, which had stopped, began to beat again, weak and irregular, but beating. "Stay with us," Nia whispered, her own voice fading. "Stay with us, Cole Morgan. Your story is not finished." Cole's eyes opened. He saw his daughters' faces hovering above him, saw Reed holding Sarah, both of them crying, saw Dawson and his men staring in amazement at what they had just witnessed. And he saw Nia collapsed beside him, the soulstone clutched to her chest, her eyes closed but her breathing steady. She had saved him, had refused to let him die, had given the last of her strength to pull him back from the edge. "Get them both to beds," Dawson ordered. "Carefully, and someone tell me what in the hell just happened here." But Cole was already fading again, slipping into unconsciousness. Not death this time, but healing sleep. His last thought before darkness claimed him was of gratitude, for second chances, for daughters who forgave, for an Apache woman who had taught him to trust again, for life. The world came back in pieces, warmth first, the crackle of a fire, soft blankets against his skin, then sound, voices speaking quietly, trying not to wake him, the clink of dishes, the scrape of a chair, finally light. Cole opened his eyes to find himself in his own bedroom in the main cabin. Sunlight streamed through the window, warm and golden. Spring sunlight, he realized. The winter had passed while he healed. "Pa." Kate's voice, soft and hopeful. He turned his head, the simple movement requiring more effort than it should. Kate sat beside the bed, her face thin but healthy, her gray eyes bright. The wound that had nearly killed her had left a scar visible above the neckline of her dress, but she was alive, whole. "Hey, Pumpkin," Cole managed, his voice rough from disuse. Kate's face lit with joy. "Emma, Emma, he's awake." Footsteps thundered on the stairs. Emma burst into the room, older somehow than Cole remembered. She had turned 16 while he slept, had become a woman in the months of his recovery. "Pa," she said, and there were tears in her eyes. Good tears, happy tears. "How long?" Cole asked. 4 months, Emma said, pulling up a chair beside Kate. "It's April. The snow's melted. Spring came early this year." 4 months. Cole tried to process that. 4 months of his life gone to healing sleep. "Nia," he asked. "She's here," Emma said. "She's been tending to you, teaching me and Kate more about medicine. She said the channeling damaged you both, but that you'd heal if we were patient." As if summoned by her name, Nia appeared in the doorway. She looked different than Cole remembered, stronger, more at home. Her hair was braided in a style that mixed Apache tradition with practical frontier life. She wore a dress that Emma must have given her, but she moved in it with the same grace she had shown in her traditional clothing. "You're awake," she said, a smile touching her lips. "Good. I was beginning to worry you would sleep through the entire summer." "Sarah?" Cole asked. "Reed's daughter. Thriving," Nia said. Augustus visits every week to check on you and to bring Sarah to continue her education and healing. The girl has a gift for it. She and Kate have become close friends. Cole tried to sit up, but his body refused to cooperate. Naya moved to his side, helping him, her hands strong and sure. "Don't push," she said. "Your body needs time. What you did, what we did, it costs. The mark saved your life, but you'll need months more to fully recover." "And you?" Cole asked. "How are you?" "Better than you," Nia said. "I did not bear as much of the burden, and I've had my mother's training in recovery techniques." She sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that Cole could smell the herbs she used in her medicines, sage and sweetgrass and something else he could not name. "You saved my life," he said quietly. "You saved mine first," Nia countered, "and Kate's, and Sarah's. I merely returned the favor." It was more than that. Naya met his eyes, and in them he saw acknowledgement of the bond that had formed between them. Not love, not yet, but the potential for it. The foundation. "Yes," she agreed. "It was more than that." Emma cleared her throat. "I'll make some broth. You need to eat Pa. Build your strength back." She left, taking Kate with her, despite the girl's protests that she wanted to stay. The door closed, leaving Cole and Nia alone. "Crow?" Cole asked. Nia's expression darkened. "Dead. They hanged him 6 weeks ago in Helena." Cole waited for some feeling. Relief, satisfaction, closure. But there was only emptiness where hatred should have been. "I went to the execution," Nia continued. "Watched them put the noose around his neck. He was given a chance to speak, to show remorse. Do you know what he said?" Cole shook his head. "He said, 'I regret nothing. I simply did what civilized men hire others to do. The only difference is I didn't hide behind polite words.'" Nia's hands clenched. "Then they dropped him. He died quickly, too quickly for what he'd done." "Did it help?" Cole asked quietly. "Watching him die?" Nia considered the question. "No, my people are still gone. Watching him hang didn't bring them back. But knowing he can never hurt anyone else again, that helped. Reed testified against him," she added, "confessed everything. His part in hiring Crow, though he didn't know about the massacre or your wife's murder, the judge was lenient given Reed's cooperation and his daughter's situation. Probation and restitution to the victims' families." "That seems fair," Cole said. "He's been working to make amends," Nia said, "donating to Apache orphanages, funding a school. He brings Sarah every week not just to check on you, but to learn, to be better." "Good," Cole said, and meant it. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Outside, Cole could hear Emma and Kate talking in the kitchen, could smell food cooking, could feel life happening around him instead of passing him by. "What will you do?" he asked Naya. "Now that the stone is safe, now that Crow is dead, will you go back to your people?" Pain flickered across Nia's face. "I have no people to return to. My tribe is gone. The stone is all that remains of them." "Then stay," Cole said. The words came out before he could think them through, but once spoken, he did not want to take them back. "Stay here. Help Emma learn. Teach Kate. There's room. There's—" He trailed off, not sure how to finish, not sure what he was really asking. Nia smiled. "There's what Cole Morgan—" "There's a future," Cole said. "If you want it. If you want to help build something new, a place where Apache medicine and frontier life can coexist, where healing happens instead of hurting. Emma told me about the letter," Nia said. "The acceptance to medical school." Cole nodded. "She should go. She's brilliant. She could do so much good. She won't leave Kate alone," Nia said. "And she won't leave you while you're still recovering." "Then we make sure I recover," Cole said. "We get me strong enough that Emma feels safe leaving, and we let her go become the doctor her mother would have been proud of. And Kate? Kate stays here, with us. We teach her the healing arts, both kinds. We honor Rebecca's memory and Tall Feather's legacy by raising a new generation that doesn't have to choose between worlds." "Us?" Nia repeated softly. Cole reached out his hand, trembling slightly from weakness, and found Nia's hand. She did not pull away. "I'm not asking for promises," he said. "I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. But stay, please. Let's see what we can build together." Naya looked at their joined hands, at the marks on their arms that had bound them together through pain and sacrifice, at the future that stretched before them, uncertain but full of possibility. "I'll stay," she said. The months that followed were filled with the slow, patient work of healing and building. Cole grew stronger day by day, his body recovering from the damage the channeling had done. Naya stayed by his side, teaching him the same techniques she used, helping him understand the changes the ritual had wrought in his body. Emma threw herself into preparation for medical school, studying Rebecca's journal and Nia's teachings with fierce determination. She would leave in August for San Francisco, but she left knowing her father and sister were in good hands. Kate blossomed under Nia's tutelage, her natural gift for healing developing into real skill. She learned the names of 100 plants, their uses, their properties. Learned when to use them and when to step back and let the body heal itself. Augustus Reed became a regular visitor, bringing Sarah for lessons and staying to help with work around the property. He and Cole forged a new relationship built on shared trauma and the recognition of their own failures. It would never be friendship exactly, but it was respect. It was enough. The soul stone remained in Nia's keeping, hidden away and used only when absolutely necessary. Word spread about the healing that had taken place, and people began to come from across Montana seeking help. Most Nia turned away, knowing the stone's power should not be used lightly. But for the truly desperate cases, the ones where conventional medicine had failed, she would consider it, always with Cole as channeler, always together. Summer arrived in glory, the mountains green and alive, the meadows filled with wildflowers. Emma prepared to leave, torn between excitement for her future and worry about leaving her family. "Go," Cole told her the night before her departure. "Go and make us proud. Make your mother proud." "What if something happens while I'm gone?" Emma asked. "What if you need me?" "Then Naya will be here," Cole said, "and Kate, and we'll manage. Because you taught us how to be a family again." Emma hugged him fiercely, no longer afraid to show affection. "I love you, Pa." "I love you too," Cole said, the words coming easier now. "So much." She left the next morning on the stage to Helena, where she would catch the train to California. Cole, Naya, and Kate stood on the porch and waved until she was out of sight. "It's just us now," Kate said, slipping her hand into Cole's. "Yes," Cole agreed. He looked at Nia, who stood beside them, and felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the summer sun. Just us. That evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Cole found himself at Rebecca's grave for the first time in months. He knelt in the grass no longer, snow-covered but green and soft, and placed a bouquet of wildflowers on the headstone. "I'm sorry it took me so long," he said quietly. "Sorry I wasted so many years being angry and afraid, but I'm trying now, I'm living, and I think you'd approve of the life I'm building." Footsteps behind him, Nia's quiet approach. "Do you mind company?" she asked. "Never," Cole said. She knelt beside him, looking at the grave. "Tell me about her, about Rebecca." So Cole did. He talked about the woman he had loved and lost, about her kindness and her curiosity, and her belief that different worlds could coexist peacefully. He talked about his failures and his regrets, but also about his gratitude for the time they had shared. "She would have liked you," he said to Nia. "And I would have liked her," Nia replied. "She honored my mother's teachings. That alone would have made us sisters of sorts." "I'm not trying to replace her," Cole said carefully. "What I feel for you, it's different, new. Not better or worse, just different." "I know," Nia said. "And what I feel for you is not the gratitude of someone you saved. It's something I'm still learning to name." She took his hand, lacing her fingers through his. "We have time," she said, "to learn, to discover, to build something neither of us expected, but both of us deserve." Cole looked at their joined hands, at the marks on their arms that had bound them together through trial and sacrifice, at the woman who had taught him to trust again, to hope again, to believe that healing was possible even from the deepest wounds. "Yes," he agreed, "we have time." They stood together as the stars began to appear one by one in the darkening sky. Thunder Ridge spread out below them, no longer a fortress of isolation, but a home, a place of healing, a bridge between worlds. Cole Morgan, who had spent 10 years as a ghost, finally felt fully alive. The mark on his arm, the eagle of protection, no longer just a reminder of the past but a promise for the future. He had been given a second chance, and this time he would not waste it. This time he would choose life, would choose trust, would choose to be the man Tallfeather had believed he could become. The protector, the healer, the bridge. The eagle spread its wings and remembered how to fly. The end.